this tank on World of Tanks is one of the most important medium tanks that everyone should go towards at some point on the game, and preferably at the beginning of their journey into the game. So the M48A5 pattern is one of the best medium tanks that you can pick up in the game for a variety of reasons, and it doesn't cost you any money, which is even better on a game that seemingly seems to be adding more and more premiums every single week. But the M48A5 pattern is of course the tech tree American medium line leading all the way up to this vehicle where we can find it, and the tech tree line leading up to this tank is actually one of the best, easiest tech tree lines to grind through. And by easiest, I don't mean it's necessarily the most overpowered or anything like that. I just mean that every single one of these tanks leading up to it from tier 7 onwards is actually pretty nice to play. All of them have their own nuances, but they work really well in the current game because they combine good speed, good alpha damage when you're fully upgraded, and they kind of feature this nice gameplay where you can try to go hold down in some capacity, as well as actually have a nice amount of speed, where a lot of the other mediums, maybe they sacrifice complete turret weaknesses, whereas these have a little bit. Now, there's certainly no British medium tank whereby you'll bounce rounds quite reliably, but they can bounce a few, and you can often, because of the shape of the hull armor of these things, bounce quite a few of them as well. So the T20, brilliant vehicle, very fast, very good gun, great DPM. Then you move on to the Pershing, which is slightly slower, but more of the M48 style of play, and it will teach you quite a lot. It has a brilliant gun, really accurate, one of my favorite mediums of all time, and a really, really nice one to play. And then you move on to the M46 pattern, which is very, very strong when you're fully upgraded, because you get 390 alpha with amazing penetration values on both your standard and your premium, allowing you to basically deal with anything that you'll meet, including tier 10 super heavy vehicles. So really nice to have that. Has the heat rounds for the secondary ammunition, and then of course moving up to the M48A5 pattern, which is kind of the top of the tree review that we're doing in today's video. So when you get to the M48A5 pattern, are you going to be disappointed, or are you going to be very happy with what you get? Well, from my experience, this tank is everything that you would hope for, having played all of the tech tree tanks before it. And so when you get to this tank, you really do feel like it was very, very rewarding, and you got the tank that you were, leading up to with all of the other tanks. It plays very similar and just is a better version of all of the previous vehicles in the tech tree line, and can perform at tier 10 very, very well. So in terms of how I actually run this vehicle and its strengths and weaknesses with regards to how you can combat them with equipment and consumables and crew skills, well, this tank has amazing accuracy to begin with, but it is a bit lower or worse, I guess, than some of the other mediums in the game, which is why we're running vertical stabilizer. Now, that's because this tank has 390 alpha, similar to that of the British tanks, the British mediums, which have the higher alpha. And then, of course, you have the Soviet mediums, which typically have 320 alpha, anywhere up to 440, depending on which tank it is. If it's the 430U, which is the Soviet tier 10, kind of heavily armored medium that has pretty poor DPM, whereas these get a good combination of great DPM, as you can see, 3,800, and good accuracy, 9 degrees of gun depression, which is nice, but slightly worse than the British mediums, but it still works really, really well. And the great thing about these tanks in particular is that they have amazing view range, which is why they've got a gigantic cupola, at least with regards to these tanks. But of course, the tier 10 has probably the most prominent cupola up there on the top left of the vehicle as we're looking at it now, which can be penned really easily. But the actual frontal hull, turret armor, it is fairly weak if people go for the cheeks, which is kind of this area here where these red marks are on the left and right of the turret, because it is only 200 millimeters thick, and it's not that well rounded or angled when you're looking at it, but it can still pull off quite a few bounces. And of course you've got the mantler as well, which can be able to pull off quite a few bounces. It's also quite big. So if we look at the visual model, you can see it's that kind of armor. This is a skinned version as well, for those of you wondering. This is the skin. You can get it in the game if you want to, and you want to spend a bit of money. Maybe you like the tank and you want to kind of spend a bit of money to, I guess, pick up a skin that looks really cool, which I think this one definitely does. But yeah, for those of you that want to be purely free to play, I am in love with this tank. It is certainly a very, very fun one to play. Of course, you got the key weak points on the bottom half of the tank, which is the lower plate. As you can see, it's anywhere from like 90mm all the way up to like 130, 150. You want to be going for the lower plate of this thing. The lower you go down, the worse the armor is, and you want to be going for these side areas here on the left and right of the bottom of that hull armor in order to pen, because it's like any of the American tanks with the boat-shaped hull. The left and right hand side are where you can pen. It's the same as the E3, that sort of thing. They all have these boat-shaped holes, and the left and right hand side are where you can pen. The upper plate is not particularly that great either, so if you do have super high penetration, and we're talking 300 plus, you can quite easily go through the upper plate of this thing, so just be aware of that. Preferably don't auto aim, because there are some really weird auto aim angles because it's boat shaped, and of course if you hit it at a weird angle, it's just going to bounce or ricochet straight off. One thing that you can note, if you're really struggling against the armor, which I doubt is very many people, and it's angling like this, you can actually hit the rear of the tank from the front, which is a case for all of the American tanks pretty much. Probably more noticeable with this one. But you can see at the rear of the tank, it kind of goes up, which is the engine deck. And so whether you're playing in the M48A5 pattern or the E5 or whatever it is, often you can actually take advantage of these American tanks having such a high up engine that isn't covered by the tracks. As you can see from the side, it's very, very high up and doesn't really have any armor to cover it. If they angle like this, you can pen the back of the tank. This is a weak point that you can go for on the E5 and various different tanks. So if you can see that back of the turret tank, preferably not on the M48 because you can pen it basically everywhere else. But if you are playing up against the heavies, sometimes this is a weak point, but just check in the armor viewer about the tank. So that's a little tip, I guess, if you're watching this video and you're wondering about American tanks in general. So with that being said, what are the ways in which we've improved the tank? So we've gone with vertical stabilizer. This gives us better accuracy and we can fire on the move a lot easier. You don't get as big of a dispersion with this tank. We've also gone with advanced loader. This gives us more DPM, which on a medium tank like this is very, very crucial. And that gives us up to 3.8 thousand DPM. We've of course got the commander in here. So if you haven't got a 9 skill commander with rapid loading, not that you need 9 skills, you should always be getting 6 Sense, Born Leader, rapid loading, and then it kind of depends on which you feel is most usable on the tanks that you have, but that's kind of the setup that you always want to have on these medium tanks. So DPM wise, very good. And then we have accuracy, very good. You've got 9 degrees of gun depression, so it can use ridge lines really well as well. You've got 537 meters of view range. That's because we're running with advanced optics. The difference on this game is if you have above 445 meters of view range, I believe, what happens is your view range, any over that makes it easier to spot people that are within your view range. There is a maximum hard limit on how far you can see people in the game. So if you've got 700 meters of view range, you can actually only see people 445 meters away, I believe. Of course, it might be 440. I'm not entirely sure. I believe it's 445 meters. But either way, you'll see it by the circle in the game, and we can cover it when we get into the gameplay portion of this video. But I thought it was very kind of stuff I want to kind of highlight to you guys about tanks, and of course the mechanics behind the tanks, so we know how to play them, whether it's this tank or another one. So with 537 meters, we've got about 90 meters there or thereabouts above what the maximum is, which means that that is actually going to boost up our detectability of people's camo. So essentially what happens is it will reduce the camo effect that other vehicles have when you go above 445 meters view range, which means we can spot them easier when they're in bushes, when they're just moving, that sort of stuff within our view range limit. So very, very nice to have, and very good for digging out those TDs who are sat in bushes, that sort of thing. It makes it a little bit easier. So that's why we're running advanced optics. Of course, you could drop it off and you want to be more undetectable yourself by running advanced concealment. It's just completely down to you. But either way, that's kind of a setup that you can use in your own games. So in terms of other options, you could drop out advanced optics to run advanced concealment. You could run improved ventilation potentially. You could drop out the gun stabilizer for a bit more mobility if you want an aggressive build. But really, I would keep gun stabilizer, advanced optics, or advanced loader even. So that's kind of how we set up the tank. Commanders wise, I won't go into every single skill, but this is the typical skill like layout that I have on mediums and light tanks. At least medium light tank hybrids, I have this crew set up for both playing light tanks and mediums. Of course, if you are playing traditional light tanks, you're going to be wanting more of the camo perks, but for this we have a good variety of skills that are going to boost up a lot of the key aspects of a medium tank, so that's nice. One of the things that I maybe wouldn't use is mark target, but it's useful to get a bit more assistance if you're going for marks of excellence. But the M48A5 pattern, really nice tank, and I guess now we can show off what this tank can do in the gameplay. We've got 2 gameplays to review in today's video, and hopefully you find it useful. So first up, we have a nice little game on Ruinberg, and this map is actually pretty good for a medium tank, although for some reason Wargaming decided to change the whole left hand side of the map as we are seeing it now. Of course that's the right hand side of the map if we're looking at the mini-map. But for some reason they changed it up, made it a lot worse to play over this side because there isn't as much cover from the middle. Now, I don't know why Wargaming decided that this was a good idea. In my opinion, it wasn't. It makes this basically area completely open to be hit from multiple directions, makes it very difficult to actually play this area, and I feel like it is a bit of a bad spot, I think, for the majority tanks. But when you are playing in a medium, this is pretty much the only area you can really go unless you got a lot of armor, which the M48A5 pattern doesn't really have. It does have a little bit of armor, but it isn't great. And so in coming over here, we have to be very careful of any TDs that are going to be in the back line. So that's kind of one thing that you've got to be quite careful of. Make sure that you're pulling back, trying to put cover in between you and any potential opponents that might get spotted. Of course, a nice auto aim there from the Object 140 that was definitely skillfully aimed, hit us straight in the turret. There you go. Trust me, my games go the exact same as yours do. So yeah, really nice to see that one go straight into us. That was heat ammunition from the 140, which means it's going to pen us when it hits our turret. It's just high pen rounds. You can see here we've got a little Type 5 heavy that's pushing through the town, who we get one shot off into, and now we just have to farm up this Type 5 that's over here. Probably only going to get one into him here, which is a bit unfortunate. Now this comes to the point where, what do we do? Well, this game is it's a bit, I don't know, not great for our team, at least at this moment in time. You can see us just trying to go for this pixel shot, and of course we hit it, getting the good RNG, but don't worry because we're going to end up with bad RNG in just a moment. So we're pushing over here. There's 3 of our vehicles. If we don't capture this area of the map, what can happen is we're going to get sausage sandwiched in the town. Now, the town people, or the townsfolk that are in this game right now, they're not doing too hot. They've got a lot of heavy tanks that are pushing quite hard on the corners, and they don't seem to be working in tandem together to try and get the win, which is a bit unfortunate. Now, we get one off into the back chat. Hopefully, we can get another one here, and oh, God's sake. Heat ammunition being slower. If we had APCR, maybe we would have hit it, but it would probably just be a tiny bit too late for us to finish that guy off, and maybe that'll come back to bite us in the backside, don't worry. Either way, the Murat is over here. He hits us in that engine deck, the point that I was talking about, right on the side of that engine deck. Not great. But on this side, we've only got 2 helpers, 2 teammates. One of them a TD, one of them a medium, and we got this Murat, which is just going to be a bit of a pain. It's got an autoloader, it can be a right pain in the backside. So we've got to be quite careful in what we do next. But the Murat here, is he going to come backwards? He looks like he might do, and he actually pushes forward, but for some reason we don't manage to go through the post box there. We actually end up just hitting it. We've got heat ammunition, that's why we didn't go through the post box. Don't worry, it was my bad aim. We should have waited until he came out into the open. We go for a little ram there, just to secure a bit of damage on him, making it very difficult for him to do anything. The Murat here, not particularly going to do anything against us, and we just ram into it, make it very close, and you can see me just dabbing on him at the end. Yeah, I apologise, Murat, if you're watching, but yeah, that was not the greatest of play from the Murat, and certainly YOLOing me to do 0 damage was not the play either. But we've dealt 4,500 damage in this game, which is a decent one, but it's kind of one of those games where now we've got the bad situation where we've got to try and deal with the rest of the enemy team. Now this is the point where I make a misplay. What I should have done in this game is actually pushed in to the town area, I think. Because coming up to here, I was hoping that what I'd be able to do is, because they're going to finish off the guys in the town, be able to stop their advance towards the cap circle. Now, for some reason, the medium that's over there doesn't go into the cap circle, which probably would have secured us the game. But yeah, he decides to push over there. 2 people in the cap, about a 30-second delay, but yeah, now they're 1 versus 1ing each of the tanks on the enemy team. It would have been better if they bunched up, but you can see what I'm just trying to do is spot anyone that's pushing towards our base, because I'm a little bit concerned that they're just going to come up from behind. This is probably the misplay of the game, probably the one that maybe potentially lost us the game, because I could have gone to the cap, maybe we could have got in there. Yeah, it's not the best play, but I was thinking of the enemy team in my head when I was actually playing, that they may potentially come up from behind this side, so it was going to be a bit of a blocker, plus we could see if anyone was going to push into the middle of this game. But we now find ourselves a little 56 TP, or 50 TP even. 56 TP isn't even in the game yet, so I don't know why I'm saying that. But 50 TP, he's pushing up. We get 1 shot into him, but we're probably not going to get another one. He's behind the buildings now, not great. And yeah, probably should have just swapped back to the standard ammunition. Don't really need the heat ammo, but it's just in case. We do hit the Ag Tiger here, which is nice, but we're up to 12,000 hit points, or 1,295 hit points actually. I don't know what was going on about there. We get hit from the side, obviously one of our favourite vehicles in the game, the little Turan that wasn't spotted, and then oh, the Otti that we didn't actually finish off earlier by half a millisecond basically, ends up landing a shot into our engine deck in the town. Yay, thank you. Love to see this game. But yeah, 5.6k damage, definitely could have done more, definitely could have won this game I think, if we hadn't stayed so long in that middle section, and probably if we'd actually pushed a little bit earlier, plus if we'd actually pushed back into the town, we probably would have done much better and may be able to have capped out the enemy team to actually win the game. In the end, didn't matter, we ended up losing it, but thought it was a good showcase of what the M48 can do, and certainly in a game where you make some mistakes, we still picked up 5.6 thousand damage. Yeah, not a bad one to say the least, but of course we're going to end up losing this game. I don't think the M53-55 is going to be able to carry himself against 8 vehicles, but yeah, still a little bit sore that we lost that one, and we definitely could have won it. But either way, let's jump into the next gameplay now to see exactly what we can do with this tank in a different map, in a different location, and hopefully don't get taken out and lose in the same way. And obviously I wouldn't want to guarantee that we won't lose in the same sort of way, but yeah, let's see what we can do in this map. It's pretty decent, this one. Essentially you've got a lot of options, there's a lot of flexibility, you can move around the map quite well, and Sand River being one of the kind of, I guess, quite a good one for mediums. There's a lot of opportunity to find side shots, find lots of different shots throughout the game, and because we've got a pretty decent reload on this thing, you should be able to find quite a few of the tanks out in the open, that sort of thing. So as long as you've got good aim, you can pretty much do a very good game on this map, regardless of how you actually play. For the most part. So at the beginning we are doing a little bit of a risky thing. We're going to move into this bush. I'm hoping we can spot some people that are trying to make the cross or a bit slower. You can see we go for a shot on the FV, very lucky to pen that one. RNG definitely in our favor there. We're going for a track on the 60 TP, which is great, and because our accuracy is so good, you can do that quite consistently. Not going to get another one on him. And now we've got to try and find another shot. You can see there's this T100 LT. Now we have to be quite careful of him, not because he's dangerous in himself, but because he may spot us, and this position is really not good if you get spotted. And oh god, we're spotted. BA. Brilliant. We get hit from the side, directly in front. We got this rock in front of us, which you can use to hide yourself a little bit, make it very difficult for people to hit you. But then we can't reverse too far because we can get hit from their base. So yeah, not ideal. Going for a very speculative shot on the Leopard there. Not going to hit that one, that's for sure. And then we bounce off the side of the FE4202 turret. And not really surprising. And then we've got a little waffle who's over there, who we tried to go for a shot on and actually hit someone else, probably the Leopard. So yeah, quite lucky on that one. But now it's time to pull back. We're getting spotted constantly. We've got people in the base. We managed to hit another lucky auto in there against the T62A. And yeah, we've lost 600 health, but we've done 1600 damage. Yeah, probably could have got away with not taking any damage if I'd moved back a little bit faster and avoided that T100 LT just YOLOing around. But yeah, this sort of point in the game, it's kind of up in the air. We don't really know who's going to win this one. So what we need to do is just keep ourselves a little bit open to where we can go. We don't want to commit to one flank and then end up that we actually needed to go to the other one. So play in the middle is quite good for this. Plus it is relatively defendable. Like, you don't have too many things that you need to worry about. It's really about getting spotted and just making sure that if you do get spotted, you don't get pumped from one side. So making sure you've got obstacles in between you and opponents, and making sure that you can pull back where needed. This is where the aim starts to go into a potato mode. We're trying to get some shots on the Leopard. RNG not helping us out, but certainly not the best shot in the game, so can't complain all too much. Leopard 1 decides to YOLO, not quite sure what that play was, but he finishes off on Manticore, which is kind of annoying. And of course loses all of his health in the process, so definitely wouldn't want to do that trade. But you can see here 50 TP is moving up, or 60 TP is it? Yep, it is. Very slim shot to actually hit the 60 TP, and we didn't have heat ammo loaded, so yeah, probably less likely to actually pen him through the upper plate, even when we're looking down into it. But now we have the age-old can we spot or outspot the opponents, which apparently is not going to be the case right now. But of course the biggest problem with us being here is the high alpha TDs. We've got the Waffle Panzer IV, we've got the Object 268V5, and there is one other TD that we're not quite sure. The STRV's in base, so we don't really have to worry about him. But we want to pull back a little bit. But I get him very greedy here, should not be still here. We take a shot for it, not worth it, should have saved my health. But yeah, this could have been a much bigger hit as well. Could have been the Waffle snapping us as well, because, you know, auto aims in this game being so broken right now. And there you go, we find someone back up down the slope. Hopefully we don't get hit. Perfect, 2.8k damage. We've definitely done over the hit points of our health, which is a good sign that, you know, you've done an okay game. At least you haven't been negative for your team. We track the 50 TP here, and he's kind of out in the open. He can't actually get the depression on us, which is great, and that means we can put another one into him, finish him off. But the game is really not looking too good here. Now, what I should have done at this point, because, you know, we always want to make sure that we're critiquing our own gameplay, even if you have had an okay game, 3.4k damage, is pulling back. Now, this is where we take the misplay. This is where I should have pulled back, and what you can do is pull back to the hill in E6 or D6. It's that kind of area. You can get hold down there, you can stop people pushing into your base, you can make use of your gun depression, and instead we stay here. This is the big misplay, and often this is some things that you can do in your games. Even I make bad mistakes, and this was definitely one of them. And you can see here going for the Skoda T50, and we bounce. The RNG definitely coming back to bite me in this one. Definitely don't know how we didn't pen the Skoda. Hit it at a ridiculous angle, I expect. But he is going to pay the price for that one, as we hit him with the second one. Now it's just time to pull all the way back. This is where the Jaegeru gets spotted. Oh god, the Jaegeru, please no. We really need to get out of the way. I check what it is. It's a Jaegeru. Let's move. Let's get as far away as possible. At this point in time, what I should have done is, yet again being critical, pulling back behind this ridge. I shouldn't have actually stopped here. We could have probably moved all the way back. But you can see there's a Jaeger. He auto-aims our teammate there, which is just lucky. It's just a pain in the backside that he did that. Yet again, a bad shot here. Should have gone for the lower plate. Would have penned every single time. And potentially been able to two-shot him. Since he's fired, we know that we can hit him again. And here we are in a bit of a pickle. He's probably reloaded at this point. And we try and just bait him into this one. I wasn't expecting to go all the way out, but he hits us anyway on the move, which is fantastic. And yeah, the RNG definitely coming in to pay us back in that one. Should we have pulled out? Maybe I pulled out a little bit too far, but yeah, I was not expecting to get hit. But either way, me and the E50M doing over 4k, with the E50M doing 5.7 basically, but we still end up losing the game. So you can see that the tank is very, very capable, and in that last replay with so many mistakes, you can still pick up really, really nice games. And albeit this tank is a very, very good one for being like a support medium, but also a damage dealer at the same time, and is very good at poking and dealing damage over time throughout the game, and can lock people's tracks down. The reload speed's so good that you can do that. And yeah, just an overall really enjoyable tank that hopefully you guys will actually go towards, try out, and if you've seen or had this tank before, maybe potentially trying it out again and giving it a go. I think it is really, really worth it, and it is one of the best mediums in the game. Is it the best medium? By far, no. But it is one of the best, and I think it is a tank well worth actually grinding towards, and is probably the best grindable tech tree line in the game for the medium tanks in this game. And that includes the British ones, which are a close second, but yeah, both of these tech tree lines, very good mediums, British and the Americans. Yeah, really, really good ones. Soviet ones probably take a little bit more in-depth knowledge of the game to make work, because they don't have the gun depression, and the DPM is good, but it isn't kind of that good because you have lower alpha damage, and so you need to know how to poke and deal multiple shots for every time you get hit. Otherwise, you're going to be finding them very difficult. So this one, probably a more all-rounder grind, and I think well worth the time. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed this video showcasing off the M40A5 pattern and how you can make it work in the game. And if you've got any questions or queries or vehicles that you want me to do next, then let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll try my best to get them out for you, as I do take inspiration from your comments, as you've probably seen with a couple of videos if you have made the comments and you've seen them come up in the game. But either way, I will see you in the next one. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the day and you've had a great weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.